Hello, welcome to Hattie Talks and this week's episode of Turn Back Time Tuesdays. This is where every Tuesday we sit down and talk about a historical figure or event, or this time it's going to be a place. I say every Tuesday, I'm really sorry I missed last week's episode. I was moving house, so I hope that lets me off. Please forgive me. But I'm back now and yeah, let's go. This week's topic was requested by Peter, so thank you for the idea. And we're going to be talking about the Isle of Wight. Before we get started, please subscribe and like, and also comment if you have any requests, because I do really enjoy looking into what you guys are interested in. So the Isle of Wight has an amazingly rich history. It's fascinating. It's a beautiful little island located on the south of England. It's very beautiful. It's surrounded by beaches, obviously. It's got so much history. We've got castles, we've got Roman villages, we have dinosaur bones. So many dinosaur bones are found on the Isle of Wight. So obviously with all this history I can't possibly fit it all into one video. So if you do like this video, let me know and I can do another one with more information. But this time we're going to be talking about Osbourne House, Carisbrooke Castle, and also Parkhurst Prison, which I thought would be interesting because of its notorious criminals that have been incarcerated there, such as the Kray twins, Ian Brady, the Yorkshire Ripper. We've got some big names there, so please enjoy this video. So let's start with Carisbrooke Castle. Carisbrooke is a place just outside Newport, which is one of our main towns on the Isle of Wight. So if you imagine the Isle of Wight as kind of a diamond, Newport is there and Carisbrooke is just off of Newport. Carisbrooke Castle is on top of a hill in Carisbrooke, and it's really interesting. You can go visit it. It's got a donkey, and it's just, I really recommend it. So if you're on the Isle of Wight or visiting, have a look around Carisbrooke Castle. Carisbrooke Castle stands on a site that was occupied pre-Roman times. A wall was built around the castle hill in the year 1000 AD as a defence against the Vikings. The castle belonged to the Redvers family until 1293, when the Countess Isabella sold the castle to Edward I on her deathbed. From then on, it has belonged to the Crown. The castle has been modified and updated over the years, including in Elizabeth I's reign, when additional fortifications were added to protect against the Spanish Armada. After the Civil War in the mid-1600s, Charles I was held in Hampton Court. On the 11th of November 1647, he fled to the Isle of Wight. He contacted Robert Hammond, who he thought was sympathetic. However, when he got to the castle, Hammond contacted the Parliament and Charles had a new prison, Carisbrooke Castle. He remained in the castle for 14 months until he was executed in 1649. Afterwards, his two youngest children were confined to the castle, and Princess Elizabeth actually died there in 1650. Now the castle is under control of the English Heritage, and as I said, you can go visit it and it's very good. Now moving on to Osbourne House. In 1845, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert purchased Osbourne House, which is situated in the north of the island, to the very top. Victoria had had holidays on the Isle of Wight as a child, and so had fond memories of it, and so it was the perfect holiday home and eased the stress of court life and life as a monarch. When they first purchased it, it was a 3-storey Georgian house. However, they soon realised it was too small for their families and their lifestyle, and so they rebuilt it. The current house is in the style of the Italian Renaissance, and Prince Albert actually helped design it. The house has stunning gardens, and at the very end there is a private beach where Queen Victoria would bathe. In those days, she would have had a bathing machine, which was basically a wooden room on wheels, a bit like a beach hut, but on wheels, which would let you get changed in there, wheel you down to the seafront so you can get in and not be seen by too many people, and keep your modesty. And her one, which has recently been restored, her one had its own plumbed-in toilet as well. In the main house, the ground floor was mainly large, lavish, grand rooms. However, in their private rooms, it was much more homely and comfortable. The children would visit there often with their parents, and Princess Beatrice, who was the youngest of the Queen Victoria's daughters, she actually had her whole private wing on the first floor, which was solely for her. In the garden is a little cottage called Swiss Cottage, and it's called that because it was originally in Switzerland and was taken apart and bit by bit brought to Osbourne House. This house was for the children, and they would learn to garden and cook there, which was unusual for royal family members to learn how to do. After Albert died, Queen Victoria continued to visit Osbourne House, and Alexander Bell in 1878 visited and showed Queen Victoria one of the earliest models of the telephone, placing calls to Cowes, which is a nearby town, Southampton, so across the Solent, and also to London. When Queen Victoria died in 1901, she left strict instructions in her will that the house remains part of the family. However, the kids didn't really have the same attachment to it. In 1902, Edward VII presented the house to the nation at his coronation. Osbourne House is now also under the control of English Heritage, and you can also visit there. Lastly, we're going to talk about Parkhurst Prison. Parkhurst is situated in Newport, which, as I said, is one of the main towns on the Isle of Wight. In 1778, Parkhurst was a military hospital and a children's asylum. In 1838, it then turned into a children's prison. In 1841, English people were being sent to the colony of New Zealand, and 123 Parkhurst children were sent to New Zealand. In total, 1,500 teenage boys were sent to different colonies, including Australia. In 1863, Parkhurst became a prison for young male offenders, and it was often criticised for its harsh regime and strict rules. Even today, it is considered one of the top high security prisons in England, and the worst of the worst get sent there, which I guess is because it's on the Isle of Wight. And so if a prisoner does escape, they can just cut off the ferries and he can't really go anywhere. So it's kind of a double prison. Smart. For instance, in 1995, 3 prisoners, 2 of which were murderers and 1 was a blackmailer, escaped from the prison and spent 4 days in Ryde, which is another town on the Isle of Wight. Their plan had been to steal a plane, as one of them was an amateur pilot. However, when this had failed, they didn't really have anywhere to go. Many infamous criminals have spent time in Parkhurst Prison, so let's hear about some of the main ones. Bit of a warning here, I will be talking about killing and murder. So if you're a bit sensitive to that, then skip ahead to the end. Ian Brady and Myra Hindley are well known for murdering 5 children and teens from 1963 to 1965. I mean, if you live in England and you haven't heard of them, then that's impressive. And even overseas, I don't know how well it is known internationally, but they're very famous. And they spent time, well, Ian Brady spent time in Parkhurst Prison. We also have the Kray twins, who were gang members who had murdered, robbed, assaulted. They were also held at Parkhurst Prison. Quite a lot of particularly bad prisoners are usually bounced prison to prison, and this is because if their crimes are very, very bad, other prisoners usually attack them. So for their own safety, they usually get moved around. And this is what happened to our next killer. From 1975 to 1980, West Yorkshire women were being murdered, and this was the work of Peter Sutcliffe, also known as the Yorkshire Ripper. It was a relief when in 1981 Peter was caught and trialed and jailed, and he was sent to Parkhurst Prison. While he was there, he was attacked by James Costello, another fellow inmate, with a broken coffee jar to the face, which led to him having to have 30 stitches. It was then he was moved to Broadmoor Hospital. And that is the last fact of this week's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm still a little bit up in the air because of moving, so I'm sorry if this is uploaded a little bit late. But yes, I hope to see you next week. Please comment on this video, or you can comment on any of my social medias, which is under @HattieTalksHistory. If you have any suggestions you'd like me to talk about, whether it be more of any of the videos I've already done or something new. Thank you for joining me this week. I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll see you next time.